Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with a not so snazzy intro, but it's better than what we had last season. So after a 2-month break, we are here. It is nearly draft week, and we've got tons of off-season stuff to cover. I am joined, as always, by Liam and Mark. Gents, it has been a while. We've not spoke to each other properly apart from on a chat for a good few months either. So how are you both doing? Liam, what have you been doing for 2 months?
It's a challenge. Not a whole lot, to be honest. But yeah, my ice hockey central for was obviously the ice hockey season keeps me going until things come back around. So that's coming to an end in next month. So I'll be getting back into the NFL things very, very quickly, I'm sure.
All of the off-season antics lined up, ready to go. Perfect. Mark, how is gig life going? How is it touring the country?
It's good. It's tiring. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a shadow of my former self. What used to be, sex, drugs, and rock and roll is now coffee, ibuprofen, and pile cream. So it's, I'm not quite sure how Mick Jagger and all those guys do it, if I'm honest. But I guess they don't have to do a 9 to 5 during the week.
Very true.
I guess, it's filling up my weekends, unfortunately, because I play the guitar and have to protect these. I've had to call time on my short stint in playing the game, which has been it's a bit wounding. That kind of, Brit Ball kind of very much filled the void in the off season for me, as well as injuring me quite a lot. It's how much we love draft season, and I think we've got a lot to talk about with Thursday coming up.
Absolutely. From myself, nothing exciting at all. In the process of changing jobs, so I'm on a laptop that I had to wind up to turn on. So my camera is down a little bit, and as is my mic. But all good other than that. So as planned, we will crack on with the mock draft. As anyone that is a regular watcher knows, my college football knowledge is very, very minimal. So I'm going to hand over to my two delightful co-hosts for this section, and I will pitch in best wherever I can. I have got some mock drafts lined up. However, for you to just keep doing your thing, and I'll be like, oh, I know that player, and then we'll take it from there. So Mark and Liam, show me the ropes. What are we looking at for mock drafts?
Cool. So I don't want to organize as a mock draft as such. I think we've obviously been chatting a lot this week, and for any draft buff or even a bit of a draft virgin, as the case may be, we all love going on the draft simulators and getting ourselves excited about certain possibilities, and that's not really the angle I want us to take tonight. And I think probably a good starting point is I made a load of notes just off some thoughts, and hopefully me and Liam can sort of spin you through them and spin where our heads are at in regards to what we think we might do. I still don't think it's as clear cut as the bookies may make out. So we'll take you through the positions, the kind of the main guys at those positions. What guys at those positions could we be looking at if maybe a trade back came in that was lucrative enough? And then maybe some curveballs, depending on, because as we know, anything can happen in the draft, right? So I don't know if Liam's got any other theories that he wants to throw out there, as opposed to the notes I sent you guys earlier on. But I think we'll address the elephant in the room, because it's kind of the main position that's been touted. It's a position that we've needed for so long. So I guess that's probably why everyone's so intent on talking about it and projecting that. I do think it's likely, but we'll start at edge. So I'm going to go through who I think the main guy is. Liam might be able to offer a bit more insight because obviously Liam supports the team that he's been playing on. And then actually it would be quite good for the guy who trades back, who we may trade back for, because I know Liam actually mentioned his name a long time ago, way before the draft was as imminent as it is. So I guess the name on everyone's lips with the 8th pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Dallas Turner, edge rusher, defensive end, Alabama. So I think let's just get this out of the way. He appears to be the favorite out of the 3 main guys in that in this class that we kind of feel would be of the talent or in and around that pick. He's come off another pretty strong season for Alabama. I believe if my stat brain has absorbed the right information, I think it was 10 sacks last year, Liam.
Yeah, it was.
I think given the fact that we've already been told that Raheem and Jimmy Lake will be moving to a 3-4 defense rather than the Ryan Nielsen 4-front defense. I think that his talents would really suit the system. I think he's definitely a really powerful option. What we do know about Raheem's system is that he likes to drop edges into coverages quite a lot. I think Dallas Turner would probably certainly have the athleticism to be able to do that. So I think it's kind of almost the obvious pick, which is almost making me kind of want to explore other options because otherwise it would be boring, right? But I think I don't think anybody would / should be disappointed with a Dallas Turner pick at 8. However, I do think that it has to be said that given some of the more QB needy teams around us in this draft, that I think some teams may panic if certain players become available. I cannot fathom how we are 2 days away from the NFL draft and we are somehow touting JJ McCarthy as a first round pick. No, as a first round pick, not even a I'm not even a top 10. I'm saying first round pick. I think it is crazy. But I think, panic does tend to make badly run teams do stupid things. So I think there's opportunity to trade back. Before I go on to the trade back candidate, though, Liam, any insight from watching Dallas Turner this season?
I mean, I think, we're looking at a guy who's very coachable. I don't think he is necessarily a ready-made talent, in my opinion. As if I don't think he's going to explode in the first season. I don't think he's got the sort of the technique to back up some of his sort of like his motor and his speed that he does possess. I think that's something that would have to be worked on. Not how quickly, obviously, that type of thing can be worked on. Who knows? He's incredibly quick, agile, gets around people very, very well. But he does lack a little bit of pure size. He's a pretty heavy dude. He's stocky, but I wouldn't say he's not an absolute powerhouse sort of guy who can just go over people. And I think up against a lot of the sort of the college tackles and things, although there's obviously a lot of very good ones out there in the SEC, he plays against many good ones each week. But ultimately, he's always coming up against some weaker ones now and again that he can just sort of get around the lack of pure power and strength with just a bit of skill and a bit of speed. But I think he'll struggle a little bit with that in the NFL. But he's got every other sort of stat or he's got the athleticism to work with, and I think athleticism is overlooked sometimes with with defensive ends. Everybody likes obviously like that hand movement technique, which is absolutely great. Like obviously you want that, but pure athleticism, you can't coach that. You can coach the other stuff. You can't really coach that. So if you've got that as your base, let's work with him to get the technique. And I think he could be a very sort of impactful player in the second to third year. I think is where I think he really hit, which is probably not what a lot of Falcons fans want to hear, because if we draft somebody at 8,
no,
they'd probably want 10 plus sacks, and I'm not sure he'd get it. But he showed production. Obviously, I know people say he's obviously his highest sack was 10 last year. I think only like 5 the year before, and then like 8 the year before that, something like that. But all those numbers don't sound incredibly impressive. Obviously, apart from last year, he was on the same team as Will Anderson, who was went third or whatever it was last year, was an elite pass rusher and defensive end who basically took a lot of those sacks almost because he was so good. So he was like a second guy to the almost, but putting up like 5 sacks and 8 sacks, playing with Will Anderson is actually pretty good numbers, and he was very effective alongside a player who is also elite. And it's the exact thing where if you can put up good numbers when you're playing with Aaron Donald, you're probably a good player, because Aaron Donald does so much that it's that kind of thing, isn't it? But I'm not against it. If he was going to give me I had to put a position on him, as if in a position in the overall draft, I wouldn't have had him in the top 10, but he wouldn't be far outside it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's totally fair. I would say that probably one thing worth noting is that the 3 options that we have that are the kind of best options, we would probably say probably shouldn't be in that top 10. But I'm a massively huge believer in, look, if he's your guy, go get your guy. Which I'm probably going to end up saying a few times on this show. So that's Dallas Turner. I think that's the obvious pick. It's definitely the bookies' kind of favorite.
Yeah.
My trade back candidate, I think we'd probably be able to trade back as far as 14 to 15. I would say that certainly if Roma Dunze falls, then calls will come in for him.
Yeah.
And if we choose to take some of those calls, I think, potentially maybe as far back as 15 with the Colts, possibly is kind of where, I can see a bit of an opening. But the trade back candidate, which I have to hand to you, you did mention a long time ago when we were on this show, Laiatu Latu from UCLA.
Yeah.
I think the kind of there's 2 rhetorics at the moment that are being spun around Latu is his injury history, because he has had a bad injury before. I believe it was his back or his neck, one of the 2. And the second one would be he plays in UCLA. He's not in the SEC. He's not up against the strongest of opponents during his college career. I'm not necessarily sure I agree with that. I think Latu strikes me as a bit more of a plug and play option. In that, as you mentioned earlier, whereas Dallas Turner might be a little bit of a year 2 to 3 return on investment. I think we can get pretty strong return on investment out of Latu in season 1. Am I saying he's a 10 sack guy or over a 10 sack guy? I'm not saying that. But I do think that in that first season, you probably would be attracted to a prospect like him. I would say in terms of athleticism and speed, I would say he's definitely a better option than maybe Turner is. However, on the flip side, he certainly doesn't have any of that kind of as much raw power, I think, and strength as Dallas might. So I think we've got ourselves a little bit of a quandary there if they are the 2 main options that we're considering at edge. Now, obviously, like I say, I'll completely hold my hands up. You spotted this way before I did. So what is it you liked about him? What is it you liked about him so early on?
I think he's almost the sort of stuff I said about Dallas Turner. I would almost flip it with Watu in terms of I think he has got athleticism in terms of his pure sort of size and speed, but he's nowhere near as sort of explosive or as quick off the mark or as aggressive as Dallas Turner. He hasn't got that what you class as like pure athleticism. But I think what he does have, he has the better hand movements and technique of the two right now.
Yeah.
I think what he doesn't have in the sort of explosive, he makes up for in his sort of hand movements and but I think like you said, Mark, he had my concern with that is it because he's coming up against tackles who basically allow him to do it because they're just not that good, or is it just that he has got some very good skills? I don't know. I can't. From watching tape, you just look at him and go, he's got great skills, but then I'm not an expert enough to know what the offensive tackle's doing wrong, or if he's doing everything right and he's just being beat by a better guy. I don't know, but I'm not too worried about his injury record. I think I read from sort of like the medicals he's been through over the last few weeks and months. There's been no concerns raised about that I've heard, which is obviously a good sign. I like the fact that he's potentially available a little bit lower down and not. I maybe would say Dallas Turner, maybe I would have him slightly ahead of Watu in terms of a player, but not that much ahead that I'd rather have somebody like if it was like him at 8 versus him at 15, I'd be leaning towards him at 15 with some kind of obviously additional pick or whatever it is that we pick up along the way. I think that difference in picks is bigger than the difference in the player for me. So I'd be very interested in that sort of trade. I wouldn't be that interested in picking him at 8. I think Dallas Turner's a slight reach at 8, and I think Watu's a slightly bigger reach at 8. But if we can do a bit of a trade down, I'd tickle my balls a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, good lord! Marvelous. I completely wasn't expecting that, but thank you very much for giving me that mental image. I think to me, the only other option at edge probably kind of worth mentioning would be Jared Verse. I don't see him fitting in a 3-point scheme. I think if Ryan Nielsen had still been here, we absolutely could have used that kind of probably kind of more larger, powerful skill set in that. I just don't see it working. I think if we ended up in a situation where Dallas and Laiatu were off the board, I think we'd potentially look in another direction. Is my opinion, and that's not me saying that I don't like the guy. I think he's shown that he can be impressive, but I just don't think he's the right fit or the right pick.
Yeah, I think he brings good power and stuff like that for a certain role, but I don't think that role is going to fit with what we're working towards.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Especially if we're looking for somebody who can drop into coverage, and to be fair, he wasn't great against the run last season. So I think to me it would be a waste of a pick. In my honest opinion. Danny, just before we move on from edge, anything from you on that, or any thoughts?
Oh, boys, you've absolutely covered it all. Don't you worry about it. As I've told you both many a time now, I'm leaning towards Turner myself, but I think the majority of people are doing until yesterday when Latu slightly became the more favourable option for the bookies. But everything that you've just covered in terms of Turner is probably the safest shout to walk on immediately. So I'm happy with that. I will, however, jump to the comments really quick just to do some hellos. We've got Lee watching live, who, if he's still where he was this morning, is in Pittsburgh at the moment in time before heading to Detroit and everything like that for the draft. So I'm very jealous of that. Quite some lineup. He said he's got a couple of baseball games lined up and stuff like that as well. So
nice.
Devastated.
That'll
That we're
keep you
sat here
occupied
in
for a
our-
good 24 hours.
There we go. And then we
Sorry, Lee, I
have,
couldn't think of anything worse, mate.
and then we have Maggie, who we all know very well from Atlanta Falcons Nation, watching live, who is also leaning towards the edge position. Back to Lee, just because he's bang at it tonight. He must be having the time of his life watching us whilst he's over there. But yeah, a few picks swaps would not surprise me at all. I mean,
no, me neither.
Very possible. I think it all comes down to those after the first three quarterbacks. I think it depends on who ends up buckling for who at the time.
Oh yeah, 100%. One kind of left field pick in that draft is blown wide open.
Yeah, 100%, without a doubt. I mean, I know mock drafts are no accurate representation of it, but the amount of times that you find yourself, I was getting Turner down at 20th, and I was like, yeah, do you know what? I'll pick it, but I know it won't happen in real life, so I'm just going to overlook that.
I did a mock draft that day, and the Dolphins literally gave me the farm for the 8th pick, and I was like, why?
Goodness.
Cool. All right. So we've covered edge. I think the conversation about that's been done to death over the past couple of months. So I'm gonna move swiftly on. I'll go. And this is a conversation that nobody's gonna like. All right. And I know it's gonna cause ructions, and I know it's gonna cause disagreements. Right. But I still believe that this is a possibility. We were expecting an edge the year we drafted Drake London. Of course, the position is wide receiver. Now, I will say this. I didn't mind the Mooney move. I think it was a little bit of an overpay. Anybody saying that Darnell Mooney is a true number 2 receiver is, you need to get your hard drive checked, because because he isn't. He's, and I think he's going to be good. I think it's a good addition. But realistically, we are still a real outside guy, a real speedster sort of this. Now, this isn't going to, me saying that isn't going to really do myself many favors with the potential person that I'm about to say, but with the 8th pick in the 2024 NFL draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Rome Odunze. Now, before anyone comes for me, the more I look at this board, I think Odunze is the receiver that is likelier to fall to 8. If we are sitting there at 8 and Odunze is still on the board, it would not surprise me if we made that pick. Now, to come back to my point earlier on, right? Yeah. We know we don't have a true 2, right? Mm-hmm. You could argue technically, London's not next. What we'd probably not class as a true 1. So then, if London became the 2, would Odunze then be good enough to be a 1? No. But what I'm saying is that we've just gone and spent a lot of money on Kirk Cousins. Yeah. We're also going to lose a future draft pick because he can't keep his mouth shut. So I would not be surprised to see them make this pick for another skill position player. Now I'm saying this to get it out in the open. And not that I think this would happen, but if Neighbors was there from LSU, again, I think we'd certainly jump at that. If the phone either doesn't ring, I'd be very surprised if it doesn't, or the offers that come in on those phone calls aren't worth our while. Again, controversial that I'm talking about it, but realistically, we all know that we're still one really good receiver short in that room.
No question. Yeah.
So I expect them to take a receiver. I'm probably pegging round 2. I think there's a lot of really, really great options in round 2.
Yeah.
My kind of preference in round 2 would probably be either McConkey from Georgia, Leggett, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it, but from South Carolina, or Ricky Pearsall from Florida. I think they would be really, really strong options in the second round.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is, and I'm not going to offer a trade back candidate for this because I don't think we'd trade back and take a receiver in this draft. But I do think that there is certainly a possibility if either Neighbours or Dunze is there at 8, if the offers aren't worth it, I can see Terry, just going BPA and taking it.
Yeah, it does concern me a tiny little bit, though.
About that eventuality over to you guys.
Yeah,
what's your thoughts?
It does concern me a little bit, and I know that we've always had the BPA policy since Terry has been here, and I'm fine with that. There is no problem with that, but it just feels that this is an opportunity to plug a gap that is probably unattainable at a lower level. So the second you drop below those 2, maybe 3 edge players, I feel after that the fall off is higher than that of the fall off from wide receivers to the next batch of wide receivers. And I think, although normally I'm all for BPA, I think that would be one occasion in which we'd possibly look back and think, you know what, we should have been logical for once and actually fill the gap that we need to, as opposed to just getting someone for the quality that is there.
Well, we'd all love to be in a position where the Falcons do something logical, wouldn't we?
Yeah, it just doesn't happen.
What about you, Liam? Any thoughts on that kind of wide receiver taking it?
I think if those 2 players were there, they'd be very interesting. I think for me, I know we're talking about obviously London's sort of skill set being basically a guy who goes up and gets the ball, but lacks actual pure speed. He's a go up and get it possession sort of guy. And my concern with the Dunze is he's basically a clone of that. That's his game as well. He lacks speed.
I was contradicting myself slightly, but he's just the one I saw more likely calling.
It can work. You could go get a speed guy to complement London's kind of lack of speed, or you could get a player like a Dunze and have 2 possession guys where you can just throw the ball up and go up and get it. Like, it can work both ways. You don't have to have both, really. But I think how that Neighbours has got that little bit more of a pure speed and pure step, which should be a better. Sorry, I'm not saying he's a better player, but I think he'd give us something a little bit more different than what a Dunze would give, who obviously kind of just plays a similar style to London.
No, I agree.
I think with Mooney's got talent, but he's not been productive enough to for us to know that he's going to take a good step with us. Like, he could. Like, I think he's got ability to do it, but absolutely. I don't think he's shown enough to go, he's going to step up to number 2. I don't think we could probably. No one's seen enough from him so far to say that it's going to do it. But then, like Dan said, I think I'd be willing to take a bit of a risk on a guy in sort of like the 2nd, 3rd, 4th round at that position than I would be on another sort of edge rusher. We've drafted a couple of sort of defensive line edge guys in the 2nd to 5th round over the last few years, and while some of them have been decent at times, no one's took us where we need to go. So it's obviously a position that is tricky to find in those middle rounds. Receivers, maybe not us in particular, but receivers in general, usually every draft you're going to get 1 or 2 that actually can be drafted in those 2nd to 4th round and will be at least a wide receiver 2. It's not that easy to find a wide receiver 1 in those rounds, but a wide receiver 2, which is kind of, we were saying, London's that good enough to be that wide receiver 1. That's all we need. So I'd be willing to let it slide a little bit. My issue with that is, I won't go into detail, but obviously I think there's another position that we need, probably more than that, which I'll leave it until later in the chat. But I think we're going to need to address that one probably earlier than we need to address the wide receiver. So
okay, cool. I'm happy with that. I'm not sure if the position you're talking about is the next one that we're going to move on to. I actually think this is probably the most likely, if we don't go edge, would be finding somebody to partner on the other side of the field with AJ Terrell.
Yeah, it was. That is the position.
No, but awesome. It's almost like I sent you my notes, isn't it? So with the 8th pick in the 2024 NFL draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Quinion Mitchell, cornerback from Toledo. Probably for me, the best cornerback prospect in this draft. I've seen that facial expression before, so I'm guessing I might get some pushback on that from you, Lou. But again, if we're just going to go, look, there's no real decent feedback offers coming in. We've got to go get our guy. Cornerback is, for me, a need. So I think, we're going to have to go out and get somebody. I don't think Clark Phillips is that natural replacement for Jeff Okudah. And, Jeff Okudah only gave us half a season of happy memories last season. And, the other half was nightmare memories. So, we need a long-term replacement, especially if, we assume AJ is going to get paid very, very soon. So, Quinion Mitchell, big guy, big wingspan, quick, doesn't allow separation, very much. I know he played in Toledo last year, but he had he had a hell of a season last year. So I just think we already know that our coaches, our coaching staff, have a lot of previous for coaching DBs. So for me, Mitchell is absolutely, one of those probably banker, not necessarily. I'm not going to say he's going to be a star. I'm not going to say he's Sauce Gardner, but certainly, he could give us some really, really competent cornerback to play on the other side of the field to AJ and really, really shore up that secondary. Thoughts on Quinion Mitchell?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very tasty position. I usually have a position where I'm sort of like, it's my favourite position in the draft to be due to uncertainty of like who is actually like a really good player, sort of out of multiple guys. I quite like it where it's like, I think he could well be the first guy off the board in that position, but I think there's probably 5, maybe 6 guys overall who I'll be like, I wouldn't be surprised if any of them are the best player in that position. I think, I think Mitchell probably at the moment, if he was looking purely at what he's done, I would probably say is just coming out above the rest in terms of like just what he's shown. But it's a position where would I be willing to use our 8th pick on that position, knowing that for me there's potentially some other guys further down the board that could be as good, if not better than him. I don't know, but he could be a superb player and absolutely be amazing. Like it could easily happen. I don't know whether I'd risk. I feel like there's more depth there than the edge. Again, similar to receivers, I feel like there's more depth. But I also feel like the certainly 4, maybe even 5 of the guys that I'm thinking of at that position could all go in the first round. If you all go in the first round and we don't take it with the 8th pick, we don't get one. So, well, unless we trade, obviously. But I mean, if we was to use our 8th pick, unless we're trading back up, I think we could easily be down to the 6th quarterback by the 2nd round, because I think there could be a run between sort of like the 10th and 25th sort of pick. I think there could be a run of quarters.
Yeah, I agree, and I picked out a couple that were kind of, again, my sort of preference. I don't know whether, again, if we're picking up the phone for trade options, maybe back to 16, maybe with Seattle, if Seattle want to try and get up that ladder. Kerryon Arnold from Alabama, I know he's one of your boys. Or even if Miami do want to move up, I mean, we could potentially be looking, at 2 trade backs depending on who we're looking at and what we're planning on doing. I've earmarked maybe like Miami at 21. Might be able to pick up Nate Wiggins from Clemson. Again, I think I don't think that the distance and ability is hugely far from those 3 guys. Obviously Mitchell's probably the best, but by ball hairs rather than a huge amount of distance. But for me, certainly I think it's an option. I think it's a need. It's a position that I expect us to pick up at some point in this draft. Any more thoughts on that, or any more names you want to throw into the mix?
I mean, there was 2 guys that I would obviously have in that 5 or 6 that I was referring to. I think for me, you've got Cooper DeJean, who's people do have him right up there in terms of
the first white cornerback drafted in.
I've seen people draft him in the top 10, and I've seen people draft him in the 2nd round. So he's that kind of player where nobody clearly has a clue.
I got really confused during the mock draft because for some strange reason the mock draft I was using had him as a safety.
Oh, I mean, I think he's probably one of them players who he's a versatile player, should we say? So I think he's probably listed at both. I imagine he's listed in different positions on different simulators, I would imagine. Then Arnold is a very obviously I can talk about the Alabama guys because there is 2 of them both coming out at the same time with Arnold and Kued McKinstry. So I can't take his name seriously. Just can't. They're both very interesting for different reasons that I would similar to like I was talking about Ratu and Turner. I would describe them as sort of almost opposites. Arnold brings pure athletic ability and sort of talent, but he's a little bit sort of raw and I don't want to say not smart, but he's a little bit more erratic with his plays. Makes more mistakes, but makes more plays. McKinstry or Kool-Aid, he's kind of he's not got the same sort of like speed and pure athleticism, but he's very, very clever, positional wise, body movements, hands. He's very good at that side of it, but maybe lacks pure ability and could get found out.
I've seen McKinstry going like late 1st round.
Yeah, he wouldn't be a guy that I'd be looking at 8 at all.
No, absolutely not.
He could be a pick like 4 at the right time, potentially in the 2nd round, or potentially if it was a trade down situation. But I think he'd be more towards after 15, probably in the 20s. Saying that if we're going in the 1st round, there is a guy that I like, but he's not going to be somebody that we pick because of his skill set really. And he's Mike Scienstro, I think is how you pronounce it, from Michigan.
Yeah.
So I really liked the way he plays. Obviously, he played for Michigan, which very successful this year. But he's only like he's only like 5'9", 5'10". He's very much a very good slot guy, which I think we've already got a potential slot guy in Clark Phillips. So I don't think we'll be going down that route. I don't think he's got the skill set to step on to the edge on the outside corner. So I think even though I like him as a player, I wouldn't go to him as a Falcons perspective, but he'd just be somebody I would tip to be successful in general. Sure. And outside of those guys, I think you've already mentioned the others. So I think I would be, I'd be looking at those guys some of those guys in the 2nd round if they're still there. That could be a very, very, very good pick.
Yeah. Before we move on to the curveballs, Danny, is there any more comments we need to
I
go
was
through?
just going to hit them right now. So we've got a handful more people that have jumped in to join us. So
Amazing.
yes, Sullivan. Yeah, 100%. I think
So nice to name them twice.
There we go. I think roster-wise and draft placement-wise, we probably are in a better position than we have been for the last few years. Don't disagree with that at all. Seeing as we're on the cornerback role, I don't want to drop either of you into it, but there hasn't been a little name touted, so.
Yeah, I've heard the name. I'd be lying if I said I knew a lot about him.
Yeah.
I think he kind of turned up on my mock draft at round about the 4th round.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not necessarily adverse to take it. I think that's kind of the importance of trading back, right? For me, we probably need to look at those bigger need positions for somebody to kind of jump in now, because that's kind of because we need it, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure a cornerback in the 3rd or 4th necessarily gives us that. I mean, but again, I'm not adverse to it, and I'd be lying if I said I knew much about him.
Yeah.
I think I've heard the name,
I can see Liam vigorously typing and reading, so I don't know whether it's for this or for the next.
I might be looking at some stats.
I've seen him play, I think, like once.
Yeah.
To be honest, I can't
Was that
say
when you were looking up at watching your favorite quarterback, Bo Nix?
6'3" long arm.
It was actually. Yeah, it was. That is the reason why I was actually watching that game. I was going to say, I remember him being like long is the word I'd describe him as.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's his arms or if he's tall, but that's the only thing I can remember about him. I can't remember if he's any good, to be honest.
No. Sorry for that one, Jeremy. We are useless. So any information on stuff like that?
If he's a Falcon,
there we go.
We will credit you with your scouting knowledge on that one, sir.
And there's one more that I want to pop up, and I've seen your script, Mark, so I am going to use it as the segue to the next one. So I'll let you do your intro, cover your men, and then I will pop this one up because I think it covers someone that's going to get discussed anyway.
Oh, okay, right. So just a couple of curveballs, and I'd like to kind of very, very much caveat this that this is not my preference. I don't think it's going to happen, but it's always going to be talked about. This is something that's very much doing the rounds on Twitter at the minute, because I think a lot of the sports reporters are just absolutely desperate for clicks at this time of year. But obviously we have to kind of talk about quarterback, right? Raheem and Terry said that one of the things that they were going to be looking at was potentially drafting a developmental quarterback, because obviously, Taylor has obviously stayed on his QB2. The word on the street, supposedly, at the minute, is that the Falcons are interested in Michael Penix Jr. I don't know if Michael Penix Sr. can play, but I would imagine his best days are behind him. I will say one thing. I do like him. I think he's not without issues. I would absolutely not be taking him anywhere in the 1st round. I actually think that, again, as I mentioned earlier on, some of the more QB needy teams will panic, and I probably expect him to go higher than he probably should. I think at best he should probably be a 2nd round consideration. And like I say, that's at best, and I'll go back to the stock phrase that I used at the beginning, which I said I would repeat. If he's your guy, he's your guy, right? So if he is your guy and we manage to maybe trade back and pick up an additional 2nd round pick, and he's there, do I want to use it? Do I want to? No, not particularly. But apparently the Falcons like him.
Yeah.
I will say on the QB spot that should, and I don't think this is going to happen, but should either of the main three fall, again, I couldn't imagine a more unlikely situation. But should they fall, do we take them? No. I mean, I would imagine out of the three, it's probably a toss-up between Jaden Daniels and Drake May at the minute, obviously, and you get the usual draft buzz that he doesn't want to play here, or he's got this wrong with him, or he kicked a dog once. I don't know. Actually, considering what Mike Vick did, that's probably a bad example. But I guess my view on this is that I don't see the Falcons taking a swing at Michael Penix unless they really like him and he's still there in the second round if we picked up an additional late second round pick.
Yeah.
I appreciate what Kevin's saying.
100%.
I don't think it's going to happen, Kev.
There is logic in it, but no, I agree.
I don't think we should necessarily want it to happen. But I think if they're looking at a genuine developmental QB for QB3, if I was to pick outside of what's there, Spencer Rattler, I guess. I think
Yeah, that was.
I mean, the dude. I think the dude's the same age as Kirk Cousins. He's been in college that long, but I probably see that as more of a, I don't say a viable option, but probably more of a likely option.
Yeah.
If that's something that we're going to do. But again, if you're going to go for Rattler, for me, it's late third, fourth round.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm just not sure why we're spending that pick. Liam, I don't know whether you want to add anything more to that QB discussion.
The interesting thing is what you said at the end there, and I would have, unless I looked it up before, like a couple of days ago, I would have said the same. But Spencer Rattler is younger than Penix and Nix.
Is he really?
Yeah.
That's really bizarre.
That's really surprising.
That Netflix or Amazon Prime series has really distorted our age perception of him, because I swear he was on that like nearly 10 years ago.
Rattler just feels like he's been around forever.
He does.
But but then again, I guess it's because it's kind of prime draft time, right? Like you kind of, as a draft prospect, you want your last season before you declare to be your best one. And I guess
so Penix, sold.
Is probably definitely kind of within that sort of time in his career. And he has got, listen, Penix has got a great arm. I think that he's got talent. But I just think it's a risk. And my God, if we take him at 8, I probably won't be able to broadcast my opinion on that. But that's kind of where I'm at. But I'm just putting it in there because I feel like if we didn't, we'd be selling ourselves short.
Yeah. No, I think it's certainly an option. I think it's one of them where I think the issue that we have is the top guys, should we say, of two of the top guys being May and Williams, who you would say are probably possibly top 2 in terms of like going straight in. They're both 21, so they're young guys who've got however many years ahead of them. You're sort of, I think Jen Daniels is a bit older. I don't know all these, to be honest. But then your development guys, if you want to call it that, or who you guys that you may be taking in the sort of second round, like your Nix and Penix and Rattler, I think all are going to be 24, I think, by the time the season starts. Which, I'm not saying it's old, It's not.
I mean, it's not Sexton Bennett old.
No, it's not. It's not. But
What does that make all of us? Jesus.
yeah. So you've got, a guy there, like, if you were going to say, sit for a year, 2 years, he's going to be like 26 by the time he plays. So, is it worth?
Yeah, no.
Is it worth it for that? I don't know. Like, maybe like 26. If someone plays till he's 36, that's 10 years of production, so it's not ridiculous. But maybe that would put people off. But he'd be like Penix in particular. I think would be a very interesting proposition in that second round if he was still there. I think it would be a good, potentially good pick, but also there's positions that we need to address that second round can address, and that's what will put me off.
Yeah, I agree. Anything to add on QB, Danny?
No. You covered my man, Mr. Rattler, that I said I'd have just as a gamble, and just for the little publicity stunt for the UK people that have all had the opportunity to watch him. A little more than everyone else. Just some side note stuff, just for all the comments and stuff like that. Cal, our fourth man, as always, has not been able to make it because he's on night shifts. He's saying that there's quite a few people watching it on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it at the minute. Unfortunately, we don't get your comments on our live when you're watching it through that because Elon Musk, don't know. So if you want to get involved in the comments, you either need to watch it through Facebook or YouTube, and then we can see everything, get you up on screen and discuss everything you're talking about. If you're watching it on X,
I hope people on Twitter don't think we're ignoring them.
Yeah, you are talking between yourselves, unfortunately. I have no idea. So sorry about that. We have a few little comments, but I think we'll cover them at the end because they're a little bit any other businessy. So cool. We'll keep chugging on if you want.
Yeah, cool. So I've got two more which I'm just going to rattle through.
Yeah.
So first of all, and I have to thank Aaron Freeman for seducing me into this idea. It's what I get for being one of his everyday listeners. But there's no secret that Grady Jarrett and David Onyemata are all kind of outside of 30. Grady obviously coming off the back of quite a big injury. So if there was a potential trade back to be had, I'm going to float the idea of Byron Murphy. I think he's arguably probably the best DT in the draft. I think, if we're moving to a 3-front, I think we'd be able to plug and play him, quite early doors. He'd certainly get some snaps underneath his belt. And I'm going to quote Aaron here because, I wouldn't like to be accused of plagiarism, but, almost an heir apparent to Grady. I think that if chips fall, the edge guys are off the board for whatever reason, and Byron Murphy's sitting there, I would be a strong advocate of taking that because, although not a burning need, that defensive line with one injury to one of those two guys, as we've seen last year, is a completely different box of frogs. So before I move on to my last, albeit unlikely, curveball, Liam, any thoughts on Byron Murphy with a trade back?
With a trade back, I'd be certainly interested in exploring that. It's a position of need in the near future. I would describe it as in terms of like what we've currently got, and there's nothing wrong with sort of addressing that at this stage. It is an underrated position almost. Obviously, people obviously want the flashy edge guys and things like that, which understandable because everybody sort of would. But having that sort of like disruptive guy who's got he's just the run stoppers and the guys who could also produce some decent sack numbers and just causing havoc. It's just so useful to have on any
and
team.
He can play across those. He can play as a 3 and a 0. It's
guys who've got an engine on them. Like, I mean, I don't know what sort of a snap count usually is in a game, but you know, the guys who are sort of like got these massive engines that you find nowadays. Into, you know, in the past, I remember when I started watching, or a little bit later on, even, you know, these defensive tackles could do a down, 2 downs, like, just out of it for a bit, and then they go back in and do another 2, and that's just the way people rolled. But some of these tackles nowadays, they're not as, I'm not gonna say out of shape as because they won't be that shape, but you know, they're more athletic, should we say, than maybe not too long ago, and they're managing to do like 3 downs, you know, like an effective 3 downs as well, which I think is I think Byron Murphy looks to fit into that mold from what I've seen. He's that sort of athletic, strength and speed sort of guy, which is just something I think I would love to see. But again, it's another one of them, isn't it, where it'd be a trade down situation. Like, there's so many variables in that one. But if, you know, if for whatever reason the right guy isn't there at 8, or we just fancy a different route, he wouldn't be a crazy option depending on what we can pick up for a trade down.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings you quite nicely. And this to me is unlikely, because I think everyone kind of knows probably where he's going. In the unlikely event that not Jared Verse, sorry, I've got that name wrong. Joe Alt should not go to Tennessee at 7. I don't think that's something you can turn down. You know, with Jake Matthews, as amazing a servant as he's been, is obviously, you know, clock's probably, you know, running out. Realistically, we know Caleb McGarry's probably not the right, the long-term future option. You know, I think we know his limitations now. And I just, you know, in the event that Joe Alt falls to 8, and I mean this with every fiber of my being, dude's a freak. You've got to take him. Absolutely, you know, like if the phone's ringing, put it on silent, and just draft the guy. Because, you know, I made a case earlier on that said, you know, we've got this other quarterback who's, you know, going to need time in the pocket, and he's going to need people to throw to. You know, you give him a tackle like that, you know, and not only a tackle like that, but we you know, that's a tackle that we've got for, you know, the next 5 years on the cheap. So again, probably, you know, I know unlikely scenario maybe, but if Joel falls, you got to take him.
Fair enough. So for you, should that happen, you take him and you just sack off Edge entirely, and you deal with that when you get down the draft? You think he's that good that it's just you just overwrite all of our other needs?
1000%. Danny the dude's a freak. Like, he's massive. He's got great technique. You know, everyone's kind of got him pegged going to the Titans. I think that's probably very, very likely. You know, I'd be very, very surprised if he does make it to 8. But, you know, for me, you know, that's not even a trade back call. You just take it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I've seen quite a bit of talk of him going even at 5 to Chargers. I know they have whatever his face is called, Slater, is it? Who's the like sort of like starting left tackle, but you know, just put him at right tackle, and you've got some incredible protection there. You know, so you know, I'd be surprised if he drops down to us.
Absolutely.
I'd be shocked, but you never know. But I think I can't see somebody. Every team, you know, sort of always needs. It's rare that there's a team that doesn't need a sort of a starting tackle at some point in that top 5. Like, there's always somebody who wants one. Whether they'll pass because there's other players, maybe, but I don't think he'll get past 7, like you say. So, I just can't see him dropping. But I'd be willing to sort of park other things if he was there, just because of what he can bring for, well, however many years that guy could go for. Which is very interesting.
And don't get me wrong, there are some good tackles in this sort of first round bracket. I would say that I think, you know, a lot of teams are going to benefit from. You know, you know, one that certainly, I know he's only played like 8. I think he's only started 8 games, but Amaris Mims from Georgia. I'm sure we've got plenty of Georgia fans in the house tonight. Again, absolute monster of a human being. I do expect him to go in the first round this year. You know, for tackle hungry teams, you know, I think it is a good draft. But again, you know, I'm not advocating that we trade back for a tackle. I'm just advocating that if Joe Alt falls, you draft him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I know, obviously, you know, it'll be deemed as a biased opinion, but JC Latham from Alabama I think he's going to be good.
Put your cap on. Put your Alabama cap on.
He's only about 10 years old, like so he's about 6'9" or something. No, he's not that big, but he's big.
I don't think he's far off. You know, I think
he's massive. Yeah, he's big. He's huge. But people I've seen, and I know they'll say that it's not true, but I would agree. But there's people out there have said that he's going to be better than Alt. They reckon he's that good, but not yet. If that makes sense, because he's quite young. His ability in the future, his ceiling could be higher than Alt. I'm not sure about that, to be honest, but this guy is an absolute. I've watched him, an absolute beast. Now I don't know where he's going to go, but I don't think he'll make it past out of the first round, obviously. So you know, and when I don't know if he potentially has got the ability and ceiling to even be a pick at 8, but I don't think we'll go there just because he hasn't got quite got the hype around him that Alt's got. But I think he will be an absolute beast.
I'm just going to check this out there as a rhetorical. You know, we draft Alt, and then say if the Commanders want to bite on a pick trade for McGarry and get that contract gone. You know, I think we'd save like 20 odd million in cap. You know, just rhetorical, hypothetical, food for thought. Cool. All right. Any other prospects that you want to talk about, Liam? I'm just conscious of time.
No, I suppose it's not a position I've done loads of looking at, really, just because I think it'd be outside of Alt, something that's unlikely for us. So I kind of haven't spent a lot of time on it. But I think, Latham, because I know he's a beast, and then Alt because I know he's a beast. They'd be the two that.
Latham because he's from Alabama. Like
honestly,
you don't need to do this dancing around with us. We get your agenda, all right?
I genuinely believe he's that good. I genuinely do believe he's that good.
Cool. Okie dokie. So I guess that's potential draft talk. We'll find out very, very soon where the Falcons obviously choose to go. Shall we address this tampering business before we move on to happier news?
Let's have a quick scroll up then, so we've got a relevant topic on screen.
Okay.
What do we think about the tampering with Kirk Cousins?
It's just stupid, isn't it? I mean,
first of all, I think he's an absolute sausage because he's been long enough to know what happened, and everybody knows it happens. But as long as nobody airs that, then nobody cares. It's fine. So
listen, you know, I don't think for 1 minute that the Vikings didn't know that there was discussions going on. So, you know, for me, it's kind of like, you know, all of this nonsense about us exchanging picks this year and stuff like that. It's not going to be like what happened with the Miami Dolphins, where they actually had Brady in the building. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not that situation. People need to calm. I promise I wouldn't swear as much. People need to calm down. Like it probably will hit us next year. I would probably put my money on we might lose a third or something next year. I hope it wouldn't be any more than that. Which is why it's all the more important that we're clever with this draft and maybe pick up the odd future pick if we can, just to maybe offset that. It was stupid, of course it was. Like you said, Danny, we all know it happens. We all know it happens across the league. The way some Vikings fans are going on, honestly, you would think Kirk Cousins had just turned up at the house and dipped their grandmother in custard. Like, I've never heard of so just plainly ridiculous. Like, you're adults, like you all knew it was happening. We all knew it was happening. Like, grow up. It's disappointing, and you're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. Kirk Cousins is a bit of a sausage, but we knew that, right? So, I don't think sausagery is a huge surprise. I'm just annoyed that it was costly sausagery.
Yeah, it is costly sausagery.
Costly.
Liam, anything you want to add to that?
I've ever heard, but
No, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I don't know details, obviously, what actually happened, but I don't know why teams take that any kind of risk with it, really.
He just talked without thinking, didn't he? He said, "Oh yeah, I spoke with their Atlanta fitness coach," and everyone was like, "Why would you do that? Like, why would you be thinking that? Like, well, you just go, come on, like,
do you know what?
It's happening.
It's a pain, but when we have a Super Bowl in 10 months' time, we won't worry about it, so it's all right." Oh no.
Nice 7-8 season incoming. Nice one for jinxing that down. Appreciate it.
Love that. Still not seeing.
The biggest irony of it would be that we'd get picks taken off us, and then Kirk gets injured in game 2. After speaking to a fitness coach, like that would just be that would you genuinely couldn't make that up. And then what we'd be doing is we'd be sitting there going, "Why didn't we draft Michael Penix?" So yeah, it is what it is, man. Like like I say, people just need to grow up.
Yeah, there's worse things. We're going to do a few other little around the NFL off-season bits that we've missed, maybe. I mean, how are we all feeling about Cousins? Obviously, we even though we've tweeted about it weeks and weeks ago, this is our first show since the end of the season. So,
yeah,
how are we doing, Liam? What you thinking? Is he the man? Are you happy about it? I know, obviously, the dust has settled now. So,
yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of money involved and his age and recent injuries and stuff like that, but ultimately the guy's produced on a regular basis for however many years, and I think, and this is just similar to something that we'll talk about with Matt Ryan, is what he lacks in sort of like big play explosive ability, like pure zazziness or whatever you want to call it. He makes up for in just pure consistency, and I think consistency is like massively underrated in a quarterback position. Like, a guy who's just going to make the pass that he should make on a regular basis is just so vital. Like, yes, he might not be like unbelievably talented, like somebody like Mahomes who can do all of these passes and stuff like that. Like, that's just, but that doesn't mean that you're not a quarterback who can produce. No. And I think Cousins fits that mold of, I think, he goes out there and does a job every week, and that put the right players around him, and that can win anybody games easily.
100%. Massively agree. Anything else, Mark, or of the same ilk?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it felt expensive, but again, I think we were backed into a bit of a corner. I don't think the market was particularly strong.
Yeah.
My excited little heart kind of probably did want to take a bit of a gamble on Fields, but I don't think Raheem was in a space where he could take a gamble on somebody, and you kind of hit the nail on the head there with that key word, consistency. And we've got a lot of money and a lot of this franchise invested in skill players that haven't been getting fed. And I was glad that somebody took a punt on Ridder and that someone's given him another chance now. I think some of his boneheadery last year was on him, and I think a lot of it was on the coach, but I don't think he showered himself in glory. He certainly didn't shower himself in glory by claiming that he only played bad 10% of the time in a recent interview, which I you just go, oh kid, I really stuck up for you even when you were bad, but you can't be saying that, you got to take responsibility. So it felt to me like the most sensible move. Who else was out there? Baker, again, you put your trust in it, really? Like, I think they just went and did what had to be done. And Kirk seems to have kind of, he's obviously, I don't want to say he's got the city at heart, but obviously with his wife being from here, he's probably going to have to keep his father-in-law happy more than anything, So, and given what was on the market, he was probably our best chance to have a winning season, and that's what we need. We need a winning season. We need to win this division, and we need to get back to the playoffs. And then you know what? Listen, that's progression, and that's what we've been asking for months.
Exactly that. And it sounds so simple, doesn't it? But I just want the playoffs in any capacity, and that is it's something that we've been without for so long.
I just want a quarterback to feed Kyle Pitts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's not hard. You can see him from all over. He's massive, but we are where we are. Just as a side note, off the show, this is, and I don't know who's watching it or where you all are, but this is the most ever views we've had live, and I am very overwhelmed and very grateful. So
yeah, absolutely. I have been watching it creep up, and when we started this, we do shows sometimes to 2-3 people, and it's absolutely crazy that we've managed to grow the audience that we've got, and we massively appreciate every single one of you for tuning in tonight. So thank you so much.
Usually. And my hat's off to my co-hosts here, Liam and Mark, for carrying tonight's show so far, because the draft would not be the same without you. Cannot have me here reading off NFL UK's website going, these sound like a good player.
Pick those really good names.
Fucking Kool-Aid, right?
What a man, man! I love it.
You've got some balls to pick that name, haven't you?
Unbelievable.
I mean, listen, Mr. and Mrs. McKinstry just went, got it. You know what I mean? Let's do it. Let's do it. And I respect that so much. Right. Well, I think it feels pertinent to add on kind of to end on the biggest piece of news that we've probably had as Falcons, and we've probably maybe expected to hear for a little while, but I think the way that it did end this week was probably way more emotional than I thought it was going to be.
I agree. Yeah. I thought that of course, we are referring to, and Mark, I think you're also sporting.
This is my first jersey sent over by my family in Atlanta when I first got into the sport however many years ago. I probably don't wear it enough, but absolutely. Had to rep number 2. Thanks for ruining the
anyone that's got us on socials will have seen that we put out a little bit of a combined statement. We had a little bit of a chat in the in our group chat, and we just thought it'd be rude not to put it on a public forum and thank him for everything he's done. It was I can't speak for all of you that are watching live, but when I watched that goodbye video, the one that's like 3 minutes 30 seconds, and he was thanking everyone and talking through his career, I wasn't crying. It would be a lie. My eyes were wet, and I did watch it 3 or 4 times back to back. Things like that get me really, really badly.
I'm a 36-year-old man and I've been watching this sport for maybe, 8 years, I think, something like that. And I can't remember the last time I cried over sport, and but it was special. And I was an advocate probably at the time for Matt to go, because he was just getting flattened out like every game, and I wanted him to at least go and have a chance somewhere behind an offensive line that could protect him. And unfortunately, Indianapolis decided to do the exact opposite. And it was a real quandary, because as we said in our statement, we all got into this sport as Matt Ryan is the franchise quarterback, and we were blessed, and I loved the fact that they just, the Falcons just went, what we'll do is we'll put an hour and 24-minute video of every single Matt Ryan touchdown.
Unbelievable stuff.
Like,
hats off to whoever's put that together, because that's a graph.
Like, I don't even think I could put like a minute 24 video of my, of everything I've done in my career, of any note. So that was really special, to see him there with Arthur. Arthur Blank sitting there with one of his kids on his knees, and it sounds empty, because it's the one thing we would have loved more than anything is a Super Bowl, especially with Matt as a QB, and and especially considering we were so close. And I know it's not everything, but like Arthur really, really does want this team, this organization to be as family oriented as possible, and just to see that was really moving, really moving.
It was. I mean, we don't even need to go into his stats and his personal accolades and all of that jazz. Everybody watching this stream, all the three of us, we all know what he's done for Atlanta, both the team and the city, and it was only fitting that such a thing should happen. The only thing that I'd put out there, and I doubt there'll be anything against it, does the number get retired? No?
Yeah, I would think possibly. Well, I don't really care.
I know it's not every team's thing, and not everybody. There's no obligation to do it, but I think there's just some players out there that it'd just be like wrong to not pay homage to him in some.
Yeah, no, I get that. I do. I think this is going to sound awful, and it's really, really not meant to. But if he'd won that Super Bowl, then yeah.
Fair argument.
And also, I'm not really sure Matt would necessarily want that, because again, from what I just said, he might be sitting at home listening, watching us morons talk about football like we know what we're talking about, and he might be like, no, retire that number, you silly nut English fool.
It's just how he speaks that.
Yeah, absolutely. He's actually a Geordie. Yeah, his old man was from Benwell. So I mean, look, if it happened, I wouldn't have anything against it. I'm not sure that it would be the right thing to do.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
But then again, I'm just not a big fan of number retirement. So
no, absolutely. I just thought it'd be a bit of a statement, but I don't know. Build a statue outside the stadium like we do for footballers. I don't know.
I mean, I wouldn't be adverse to that, but it's jury's out on that one for me.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, obviously for me, it was the season that I started watching NFL was Matt Ryan's first season. Not like that was just by chance. And I didn't watch the draft. I didn't even know what a rookie was. But I just kind of like tuned in, and I'd already just picked the Falcons like just at the end of the season before, and so I was like, oh, didn't know that they got a new quarterback, to be honest. And then I started watching it, and he kind of like spoiled quarterbacks like for me a little bit, because they obviously were they were talking about him on the first game. So he's a rookie, he's never like, this is his first game, and he was like really good. And I was like, is this just how good like they all are? It's like, they all just rock up and they're all amazing. And then I started like watching some other like non-Falcons games, and some of them were like, oh, these guys are shit. Like, so then ever since I was like, oh, like this, like this guy's actually clearly really good. And then I walked into like, obviously like, it was a high draft pick and stuff like that, and he was living up to his hype. And I thought, oh wow. And then I was spoiled to however 60 whatever it was seasons of Matt Ryan, and it kind of I got very used to that reliability. And I think even though like same as Mark, I was sort of I didn't have an issue with him leaving at the time that he did, because financially and coming to his career and everything, it just didn't make sense to do anything else.
No.
But at the same time, I said so many times when everybody was saying, in the sort of like the last few seasons, get rid of whatever, like, we need a mobile quarterback and blah blah blah, and draft this and draft that. I said, well, they're just so hard to hit on that you will miss the reliability and consistency and numbers that he put up every single season. Yes, he wasn't like thrillingly excited and mobile and whatever, but you just don't find that very often. Like, and straight away, we obviously like rid of athletic stuff like that. Can play, got an arm, did some good stuff, but he wasn't reliable. He wasn't consistent. No. So you just missed. You could watch downfield. You could watch our receivers when Matt Ryan was playing and see an open guy and go, yeah, he'll find him. Like, you didn't even have to watch the quarterback, because he just he'll find him, and he pretty much did.
I'll tell you low key what made me happy in a weird way was him saying in that presser, "No, I don't want to be a coach."
Yeah.
So all you weirdos that keep sharing things like, we could get Roddy White as a wide receiver coach, and then we can get Deion Sanders as the head coach, and then we can get. It's not going to happen. Stop being pedos, all right? Ex-players don't mean they're going to be great coaches. And the media stuff that he did last year, I thought he handled himself really, really well. Really glad he's enjoying that sort of stuff. Absolutely buzzing that he signed that one-day contract to retire as a Falcon. And I'm sure, by the sounds of things, I think he's staying in the area and stuff like that. So, I'm really proud to have seen that stuff happen this week, and to see Arthur Blank do that for Matt, because it felt like the most fitting end to a fantastic career for a fantastic human being.
100%.
And by any chance you are sitting at home going, what are these people saying? Because I don't understand them. And by any chance you are sitting at home, Matt, thank you very much on behalf of all of us in the UK and across the pond, and for Atlanta Falcons worldwide, because we might not have got there, but you made us three.
Yeah.
You made us fall in love with this sport.
Literally the reason I am still sat here, because there's no other reason I'd watch 0 winning seasons out of my entire NFL career. Oh dear. Boys, unless we've got anything else of pressing nature, I think that's a lovely time to call it a night.
Before we do, just so we can kind of do our little game that we like to play.
Yeah.
Go on, who are you taking it?
Turner.
Yeah, Turner.
Oh God, you're both so boring. I'm gonna say we trade back, and
you can't. You said who you taking at 8.
Okay, well, I'll be different. I'll say the stars align. Joe outfalls.
Fair enough. Well, based on what you two have
Because
been
I want to be
rambling on
different.
about this show, that's a more exciting move. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight.
And the numbers going up again, Danny.
There's been over 200 people live,
Crazy.
and for our first show back in over 2 months, obviously, sometimes in the past we have tried to drag ourselves through the off season, and then we realised how truly boring we are when football wasn't on. So we thought we'd
Speak for yourself, sir.
So we thought we'd save it all up this year and just do a big comeback show like this. Of course, the draft is this weekend. So we will, all going well, be back next week with a post-draft show to cover everything that we've probably just got entirely wrong throughout the course of this show. When we've signed Rattler at 8 instead of 72 or something, so that's good.
You're really trying to jinx this season for us.
But no, honestly, thank you all very much. This has been a monster of a show for us. If any of you sat there and you don't already follow us on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, head over to any of the socials that you fancy, drop a follow, drop a subscribe. If you can like this video on YouTube, that would really, really help. We're just trying to get to 500 subscribers. That's not that hard. I promise you can make it happen. So yeah, we will be back next week, and thank you to my co-hosts, who in fact were the hosts today whilst I've sat and screamed at the numbers going up throughout the night. Lads, any final words before the draft?
BPA.
Yeah. My message is stop posting things on social media saying, if you don't draft that person that I really like, then I'm done with this franchise.
Your biggest pet peeve at the moment in signing drafts.
Oh my word. Like, it's just, new head coach, new quarterback. Okay, every team's got needs. It's okay. We'll get through it. Yeah. But and I know I say this every year, and I know I'm an optimist, right? But let's just hope to be better. Let's just try and be happy because we've got a real chance to be better. So, come on, guys.
This is the season. I don't know what that means, but it's some games.
I'm going to slap the tack off your face if you keep it.
Right, on that note, ladies and gents, I think I should wrap this up because otherwise there's going to be a scuffle online.
Just one thing before we go, Danny. One thing that we forgot to everybody. Obviously, we've been live on video tonight across various platforms, but we will export the audio of this video so that you can listen back. We are available on most podcast streaming platforms, Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We are truly back.
That is back. Everyone's missed that. They've missed that.
There we go. It has been a pleasure, and we will catch you all next week post-draft. Thank you, and good
Thank you, everyone.
night.